Hey people, it's Naya Stoki. This is a Black Hero story, so I'd like to share this with you. This is from bbc.co.uk. I met a homeless addict and recognized my childhood friend. A chance meeting between two childhood friends helped one begin a journey back from drug addiction after many years living on the street. It was early October, and Wanja Mwara, 32, was on her way to the market in Lower Kabayati, not far from Nairobi, when she heard someone shout out her name. She looked up and was surprised to see a tall man with bulging eyes, an emaciated frame, dirty black overalls, and an equally stained thick woolen hat sitting on the side of the road. She did not recognize him. But when Patrick Hinga Wanjiru, 34, introduced himself, Wanja says she found herself in shock. Standing before her was a friend she had not known since she was 7 years old. Patrick, or Hinga as we called him, and I had met at primary school in 1992, says Wanja, who was a nurse from Kiambu County, just outside the Kenyan capital. Hinga used to be a great soccer player all throughout school. We nicknamed him Pele. Hinga was estranged from his parents and lived with his grandmother in a squat. When she couldn't afford to pay his school fees, he was forced to skip classes. Eventually, they were evicted even from the squad. But against all the odds, Hinga did well in his exams until his grandmother died. Then he dropped out of school and his life began to take a downward trajectory. Hinga started abusing drugs, first marijuana and then heroin. He spent hours sifting through garbage to find things he could sell on the streets. Hinga and Wanja lost touch. When they met again more than 15 years later, Hinga had been homeless for more than a decade. He looked nothing like the childhood friend who had once been known as Pele. Sensing Wanja's dismay, Hinga reassured her that he only wanted to say hello. She asked him if she could buy him lunch. At a local cafe, she ordered a dish she remembered had been his favorite years earlier, pork ribs and mashed potatoes. She said he appeared distracted, unable to finish sentences. I gave him my mobile telephone number and told him to call me if he needed anything. Over the next couple of days, Hinga borrowed phones and would regularly call his childhood friend, often just to hear her voice for a chat. He told her that he was committed to getting clean from drugs. I decided then that something needed to be done to help him, Wanja says. Taking to social media, Wanja appealed to her friends to see if she could raise funds for drug rehabilitation. Rehab here is very expensive and I had no way of raising funds on my own, she says. We set up a crowdfunding page, but we only managed to raise around 41,000 Kenyan shillings, 300 UK pounds initially. However, the cost of 9 days rehabilitation at Chiromo Lane Medical Center in Nairobi was more than 100,000 KES. I wasn't sure how would we be able to cover this. Wanja had promised to help Hinga, so she took him to the center anyway, unsure how they would cover the cost. A spokesperson for the rehab program says Hinga was a dedicated patient who committed fully to the 9-day detox. Within days, Hinga had gained weight and his concentration improved. Wanja took to Facebook to speak about her pride at her friend's transformation in such a short period of time. A week ago, Hinga and I couldn't hold a normal conversation with me trying to hold his head up with my hand in order for him to concentrate. Today, we can have a normal conversation with him confidently looking at me, she wrote. Mombasa businessman Fawaz Khalid spotted Wanja's public post on Facebook and said he wanted to share the story on a wider platform. He posted the photos on Twitter and has now been shared more than 50,000 times. This is the actual tweet I'm reading out. Shout out to this lady named Wanja who met a childhood friend who had run mad because of drugs, took him to rehab. He is now recovering. After that, the Kenyan media began to cover the story and Chiromo Lane Medical Center agreed to waive the entire fee for Hinga's treatment. Wanja says this is a blessing, but she was keen for her friend to undergo a more sustained recovery. It is now raising funds for him to follow a 90-day program at the Retreat Rehabilitation Center where he's currently staying. Heroin in Kenya. It is estimated that between 20,000 and 55,000 Kenyans inject heroin, but Kenya does not have a government-funded rehabilitation facility. According to the International Drugs Policy Consortium, heroin was used first in cities which were transit points such as Mombasa, before spreading to Nairobi and other parts of the country. The National Campaign Against Drug Abuse, a Kenyan government research body, said it's monitoring 25,000 intravenous drug users around the country. The number of people who snort heroin could be even higher, according to the anti-narcotics unit officials. Most of the world's heroin is produced in Afghanistan and reaches markets in Europe and North America by Central Asia and the Balkans. But the quality of heroin seized off the coast of Kenya and neighboring Tanzania has increased exponentially in the last 8 years, leading to the UN to conclude the southern route is growing in importance. Unfortunately, there's great stigma around drug abuse in Kenya, Wanja says. This may be one reason why the government doesn't provide free drug rehab treatment. Rehabs are expensive and out of reach for many people, not only in Kenya but also the greater part of Africa. I'm committed to crowdsourcing so I can support my friend at this time, says Wanja. Wanja is an angel sent from God. I owe her my life. She is stuck with me more closely than a brother or sister, Hinka tells the BBC. On Twitter, several users echoed this sentiment. Abraham Wilborn, a financial analyst from Nairobi, told Wanja, "You have a seat in heaven." Many called her Mashuja, which means hero in Swahili. People say I changed Hinka's life, but he changed mine too, says Wanja. I realize now that a small act can change a person's life. Well, hope you enjoyed this Black Hero story. This is really good and life affirming. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.